When you deploy one of these with the operators, what surprised them most once they get Flippy running?
Well, to your point about humans, like we're not trying to get rid of humans in restaurants, nor would you want to. Why would you want
No.
to do that, right? But you're right. We are trying to modernize the things that humans aren't particularly good at and don't want to do. And especially if you've got labor shortages, like think about what that means, especially in smaller markets. We get a lot of calls from companies in smaller markets that they just can't hire anybody, which means that they're open fewer hours, which means lower revenue, right? So they're closing at 8 o'clock at night instead of staying open for a late night shift because they can only get two people. You think it's hard to hire people at 3 in the afternoon, try 3 in the morning, so it's really difficult. And then remind me your other question.
What are they most surprised at once they get Flippy running?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is what happens is it creates an entirely new workflow. And then they're like, oh my God, how did I live without this? Because they're no longer waiting on the fry station. So it's like, oh, well, that's a different workflow. Well, what are we going to do? And so they figure out other ways of operating that are really new and fresh. And then they're like, I can't believe this. So that's the consistent reaction that people get over and over and over across all of our customers, because it is a little bit different. It does mean you have to kind of reimagine your workflow. If you no longer have to have a human that's sitting there burning themselves and jiggling the fries or the chicken nuggets or the onion rings or whatever 60 items Flippy cooks, what are you going to do with that person? So it does create a new workflow, and it allows you to actually optimize your operations in a different way. So I think that's really it. It's suddenly then people start to be like, well, gosh, I didn't know that I needed this, but I do. What else you got?
Yeah, it's funny when people go through changes like that. It usually you get kind of two reactions. One, employees generally hate it, right? It's you're automating me out of work. But then generally what I find is those people are repurposed and generally find better work that's more strategic, more customer facing in your example. I'm wondering what the kind of the employee feedback has been for some of your customers then when they see the Flippy fry station boxes come in.
The existing employees are terrified of it, and by the second day, they're in love with it. And today, they'll often throw at a birthday party. We got a text from somebody over the weekend saying, could we call it Felipe? So it really sort of becomes like a member of their team. And we track customer sentiment, like user sentiment, and we have 95% plus user love for Flippy, but they love it. So they wear their Flippy T-shirts. We give them Flippy hats. Everybody wears them. So they end up falling in love with it. I think it's really cool for the new employees. Like when you're out there recruiting employees, it's a huge value add. And what I mean by that is we last summer we opened a pop-up restaurant across the street from us. The landlord had this empty restaurant space. It had a bunch of equipment in it. And he said, if I give it to you for free for the summer, can you do something with it just to kind of like keep my building alive? And I was like, yeah,
Sure.
put some robots in there, yeah. So we put Flippy and we put some other automation, and we turned it into a pop-up restaurant called Cali Express by Flippy. And we did burgers and fries. And we got a ton of publicity around it, and the burgers and fries were really good, and it really kind of turned into this Instagram destination, and it was really fun. We had a great time. And we also kind of proved out that sort of, how humans and robots work together. A week before we opened, we put out a job rec saying, come work in the kitchen. And we got 0 applications, like literally 0. And so we pulled it back and we rewrote it and we said, you get to work with a robot at the fry station. And in 24 hours, we'd gotten 200 applications. And I think that that's indicative of like what people are looking for in their jobs, right? They want to be upskilled. They want to understand AI and digital and technology. Well, think about the person that got that job. They now have that on their resume, right? I've got digital experience. I've worked with a robot. I understand AI.
Oh yeah.
All they're doing is pushing a button, which, by the way, unlocks a whole new labor pool because in a lot of states, people under 18 aren't even allowed to work the fry station. It's considered too dangerous. But with Flippy, at best, they're just pushing a button. But they love it. And it's a real value add when it comes to recruiting those people. And then it's also a value add in getting them to stay. Because it costs an average of almost $6,000 across the industry to, source, onboard, train a new employee. And, in restaurants where the, turnover rate can be 150%, 200% annually, it's a treadmill. You're just constantly replacing people because you can't keep anybody. So if you can increase the retention of the employees that you have, they stay longer. Like, that's a massive savings for you, along with all the things we talked about, the injury reductions and all the other stuff that comes along with this. So the employees love it. They're a little scared at first, but they love it within a day. And we think that's great.